wealth, power, racism, and tariffs. Chaos pie, anyone? Welcome to Law and Society. Let's talk about the mess that's happening in the United States. So, before I talk about the more acute issues of Elon Musk taking over the Treasury Department and the General Services Administration, we talk about how we came to this point. So, there are many things that happened before 2020, but the 2020 pandemic created a K-shaped economy where the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. And while there were more and more and more rich people, there was also more and more poor people. The richer the few got, the poorer the masses got. And this creates a K-shaped economy and a wealth disparity that creates two very different images of what the United States is now going through. We can and we are affording the most expensive tax cuts and subsidies to our defense contractors and to multi-billionaires. Whereas the government, with Donald Trump's help, is not going to be helping the masses in lowering the cost of living, in raising the minimum wage, in creating affordable housing. None of this is Donald's priority. Donald Trump has come and he has supercharged that disparity to the point where Elon Musk is unilaterally going around infiltrating our government departments, and Donald Trump doesn't say anything about it. So where does that put us as a society? You will see in history that there's always a consolidation of wealth and power. And then at the turn of the 20th century, turn of the 19th century, when democracy flourished, when we had in the late 1700s with American independence and then French Revolution, there was this deconsolidation of power, and then a reconsolidation of that power to the people, who would then periodically come together and vote for somebody to consolidate their powers and make their country progress. So in the modern world, in our world that we live today, we live as a democratic society in the deconsolidation and reconsolidation of wealth and power. Now, that happens sometime, it should happen independently. The deconsolidation of wealth and the reconsolidation of wealth as the free market would choose, as demands would choose. Like, you don't have people who brought the air conditioning to us. Or you don't have you don't have Bill Gates, who is the richest man today, bringing software and bringing the internet closer to every home. Now you have the richest person who is into space exploration and manipulation of the government. That's where the commingling happens, and that's where the corruption begins. Because that intersects with the consolidation and deconsolidation and reconsolidation of power in a democracy, where we periodically have free and fair elections, and we deconsolidate the power by moving people or retiring people or defeating people in the various congressional seats, and then every 4 years in the presidential seat. So, and then reconsolidate that power again into that office with somebody new. And what that does is that it revives society, it revives our power to govern ourselves, which is extremely important. With the K-shaped economy, however, that power has now clashed and intersected and combined with the power of the state, which creates an oligarchy, which creates an autocratic oligarchy. And that's what we are seeing today. We're seeing this imbalance of wealth and power. And then we're seeing at the same time an erosion of American standing in the world and America's support for America's own. You see this racist war on DEI and woke, when, as simply put, a war on woke is a war on race. It's a race war. A war on DEI is sexist and misogynistic, absent any evidence that people who are diverse and come from various backgrounds weaken our infrastructure, when the truth is quite the opposite. They strengthen our bargaining power, our military power, our economic power, and that has happened now for decades and decades in the United States. So, what do we do with this? What does Donald Trump choose to do? He has chosen to consolidate wealth and power in him and in his close ring of oligarchs headed by Elon Musk, who is now infiltrating government departments. So comes the wealth into the power, and it creates this bubble of oligarchy and autocracy, where we are seeing the autocracy play out, with Hegseth having DEI policies scrubbed from the Defense Department, scrubbing holidays like, remembrances like Black History Month and Women's History Month and Pride Month, then it's not going to recognize those commemorations anymore. And, sending out emails about transgender people being put on administrative leave. We're talking about essentially shutting down the websites of the CDC, of the NIH, where very important, pertinent information is available for the public. You have the Office of Budget Management, and you have all of these offices, the General Service offices. They are being scrubbed clean of career officials to be replaced by loyalists or nobody, because Donald Trump is relying on Elon Musk to essentially play Jenga with our government and pull out departments and see when our government collapses. As I've said before, our government is now in crisis. Our democracy is now in crisis. And it's in crisis because it has been infiltrated by wealth, and wealth has now conspired with power to be able to create a government that is not for the people, but for the select few and for the benefit of Donald Trump personally. That's not where we need to be as a country. That's not where we can afford to be as a country. When you try to go out and stop funding, stop giving aid to research programs, stop FAFSA, stop financial aid, if you see all of these stoppages that are happening, you see that our country is being ground to a halt deliberately by Donald Trump every single day, with every single executive order he signs, demonizing trans people, demonizing the DEI efforts, demonizing how certain departments are being run, firing TSA heads and the safety boards of the Federal Aviation Administration. You see that then recently fired somebody from the budget office, I believe, and there's nobody. One of the offices was cleared, and there's no replacement. There's nothing on the website about U.S. aid, which weakens our influence around the world, kills our soft power, because we bring help to many countries around the world, and with that goes our goodwill. And that goes away. The goodwill goes away. And with the tariffs that Donald Trump has just now started with our closest allies, Canada and Mexico, we are alienating our allies by talking about Greenland and Panama and making Canada a 51st state, or putting tariffs on them. It hasn't put tariffs on China yet, but will put tariffs on China. They've already announced tariffs on Canada and Mexico, and they have retaliated with their own tariffs. And it's going to be a trade war with our closest allies when we don't need to have that confrontation. And by doing this, we are becoming pariahs in the world. We are isolating ourselves while projecting an expansionist ideology, which is white nationalist and supremacist, and somehow it's America only, but then it's also America going out and exploiting its power to annex other parts of the world, or to hold those countries to ransom for the aid they're receiving. There are all these methods that like with Colombia, Donald Trump said, okay, if you take your people back, there will be no tariffs. He sends the people with shackles on. Colombia says, no, we can't accept them. They are all innocent. They haven't committed any crimes. So the tariff threat comes, and then the negotiation happens, and then there's no shackles, and then there's no tariffs. And this is the transactional danger that we pose by somebody like Donald Trump, who is not diplomatic. He's a bully. He's a schoolyard bully. And that's what he's doing with the world, and that's what he's doing inside our government, to be able to dismantle our government from the inside so that we are not able to take care of ourselves if there are disasters. And there are disasters happening, from climate to people going crazy and shooting people to assassination attempts pointed at people. We are having society burst at the seams with climate disasters and with health outbreaks, the bird flu situation, with that even goes into food production and increases the cost of poultry and eggs. All of this is happening under Donald Trump's watch. And Donald Trump, what he did was went and blamed Biden and DEI practices for the plane crash in DC that happened, when it has been known for more than his presidency that there's a shortage of air traffic controllers. And he fired the FAA Safety Board and the TSA, but the blame lies on somehow on Biden and the DEI program, absent any sort of evidence. So this is the sort of disinformation dystopia that we are walking into and will be living through for the next 4 years. Be prepared. You will be shocked even when you expect the worst. So I would hope, and I would recommend that you conserve your resources. Don't spend too much money. Have savings. Keep your eyes on the news. Pay attention to people around you. Be friendly with your neighbors. Be welcoming to others. And be an American by knowing your rights. And know that ICE agents can't just come into your house without warrants. And a warrant by an ICE agents don't have warrants that they get from judges. You have to get a judge's warrant to be able to search a private place. So there are many, many, many people who are out there helping immigrants and spreading the news about what can be done to resist the dystopia that Donald Trump is spreading domestically and in foreign policy. And I hope everybody listens, stays engaged, and pushes back when we see something slipping down even further into autocracy. With that said, thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.